section 4, day 3 actually starts our stuff on factoring. More specifically, the dividing part of it. And we did this yesterday. The difference is today we're going to start talking about GCFs. So GCFs, the biggest mistake students make with these are that they see the word greatest and they think that it should be large, but because it's a factor, it's actually small numbers. And the word common means that they have to share one. So it's going to ask you to find a GCF and factor a GCF. So we're going to work on the finding it first. A GCF is... So I've listed the factors of 24 on the top. Numbers like 1 and 24, 2 and 12, numbers that multiply by each other to get 24. And I listed the factors of 32 below that. So I drew lines between any factors that are shared, meaning that they both have it. And the largest number they have in common is 8. So the GCF of a 24 and a 32 is 8. Pause the video to do the you try. They're going to give you letters as well. So if you take a look, they want the GCF of x squared y cubed and x to the fourth y squared. So I've listed them out. When you have x squared y cubed, it really means you have 2 x's, an x times x, and 3 y's, a y times y times y. And I did the same thing for x to the fourth y squared and drew lines between those things that are common. So if you notice, each of them has at least 2 x's. And each of them has at least 2 y's. But when it comes to multiplication, an x times an x is x squared, and a y times a y is y squared. So it's x squared, y squared, because they each share 2. For the second one, I listed out x to the fifth and y squared. That's 5 x's and 2 y's. And x to the fourth y cubed. That's 4 x's and 3 y's. If you draw a line between those things that are common, you'll find that there are 4 x's, that's x to the fourth, and 2 y's, that's y squared. Pause the video to do the you try it. So there has to be an easier way than listing them out. And the idea behind this is that it's the lowest exponent present for each variable. So you don't need to list all the letters out. You just look between them and you're looking for the lowest number of each of them. So take a look at example A. You have to do the letters and numbers separately. So I'm going to do the 8 and the 12 first. The biggest number that an 8 and a 12 share in terms of multiplication is a 4. Now I have an x to the fourth and an x cubed. So between the two of them, the lowest number is an x cubed. I have a y to the second and a y to the fifth. The lowest is a y squared. So when it comes to a GCF, you're looking for the lowest number present for each variable. Letter B, I have a 12 and a 6. The highest number you can use for multiplication is a 6 for those. An x squared and an x, lowest is x. A y cubed and a y, lowest is y. A z and a z squared, lowest is z. So again, for the letters, you're taking the lowest number. Letter C, don't let the plus signs confuse you. They're still asking you to find it. What is the GCF? So the highest number I can do for multiplication on a 4, 12, and 8 is a 4. So look at the letters. The first term has 2 y's, the second one has 1, but the third has none, which means the lowest is 0. You can't put any y's there. The GCF is just 4. Letter D, highest number I can multiply for 6, 15, and 9 is a 3. I have z cubed, z squared, and z. The lowest one of those is a z. So for a GCF of a term that has both a number and a letter, find the number first, and then take the lowest letter. Pause the video to complete the you try it. So then they're going to ask you to factor out the GCF. So factoring out the GCF is different than finding it. You still have to find it, but then by factoring it out, you're saying what happens when you divide each of those terms by the GCF. So taking a look at number 1, first thing you want to do is find the GCF. The highest number I can put into an 8 and a 10 is a 2. Now when it says factor, the directions here say factor. That means in parentheses, I need to say what's left if I divide all of those terms by 2. So the 8a becomes a 4a. Then there's a plus sign. The 10 becomes a 5 because factoring is division. So I get 2 parentheses 4a plus 5. It's always a really good idea when you're done these to just look at what's left in parentheses and make sure that they don't have any common factors. If they did, it would mean you didn't find the greatest common factor at first. You should have been taking a little bit more. So number 2, the GCF of a 12 and an 18 is a 6. An A and an A is A. A B squared and a B is B. And then, in parentheses, I need to say what's left if I divide each of these terms by a 6AB. So I tend to show that. It's a little easier for me. And remember, the big numbers are dividing. 12 divided by 6 is 2. I had an A, I took an A. I had a B squared and I took a B, which means I still have one B left. I had 2, I took 1. Then there's a minus sign. 18 divided by 6 is 3. I had an A, I took an A. I had a B, I took a B. All done. Again, double check what's in parentheses that there are no common factors, and there aren't. If you take a look at number 3, I'm going to talk about the directions that I didn't talk about before. It says, be sure to write your answers with descending powers of the variable. That means you need this in order before you do anything else. So if you look, the d cubed on this one comes before the d squared. So before I even do anything else, I'm going to rewrite it as a 5d cubed, put that first, then minus 10d squared plus 20d, and then I'll factor. The GCF between 5, 10, and 20 is a 5. I have a d cubed, a d squared, and a d, which means it's just 1d. So again, I'm going to divide everybody by a 5d. I had a 5, I took a 5, cancels. I had a d cubed, and I took a d, I still have d squared left. Then there's a minus sign. 10 divided by 5 is 2. I had a d squared, I took a d, I still have 1 left. Then there's a plus sign. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Got a d, took a d, none left. So just double check to make sure that your original expression is in descending order. When you take a look at number 4, it is not. So before I do anything else, I'm going to rewrite it. Keep the 6e squared first, but then put the plus 10e next, and then the minus 8. The GCF of a 6, 10, and 8 is 2, and I can't take any letters because the 8 doesn't have anything to offer me. So I'm essentially going to divide each of these by 2. 6e squared divided by 2 is a 3e squared, plus 10e divided by 2 is a 5e, minus 8 divided by 2 is 4. And you're all done. Pause the video to do the you try it.